Okay, so which version of CitraSurf do you use in which situation? In this alloy treatment table, which is available in the D files along with the rest of the literature, we lay out a lot of the common grades of stainless steel and which variety of CitraSurf treatment would be appropriate for those. But let's simplify that a little bit, break it down to the types of grades and the couple of products. The CitraSurf 2050 is pretty much just straight citric acid, runs at a pH of about 1.8, 2.0, and that works best for the austenitic grades. That's the 300 series family. These have a high level of chromium and a high level of nickel, which gives them what's called the austenitic structure, atomic structure. The CitraSurf 3050 is the low foaming version of that. So if you have a tank with an air blower in it, or more commonly a very large tank where they're spraying the product out of a spray ball up at the top, and then it flows down the sides and is pumped back up to the top in a loop, called CIP, for clean in place. So the 3050 is typically used for that, and the associated pipe systems that are connected to those tanks, or just tank pipe systems on their own. Some of the lower chromium grades, the 400 series, the martensitics, the ferritics, even the precipitation hardening grades, we've found that the lower pH of the 2050 occasionally, not usually, but often enough that it started to show itself as a problem. In the lower pH, you can get a little bit of a light etching or surface discoloration, where the surface smoothness is altered just enough that you can see a tiny bit of discoloration with the naked eye. So we discovered if we boost the pH up a little bit, same acid concentration, just raising the pH up to about a 3.0, that alleviates that problem. So that's the 2250. So we recommend, if you're not doing just the 300 grades, if you're doing the full range of grades, that the 2250 is the best thing to use. But it also works for the 300 grades, so you don't need two different baths. If you're doing more than just the 300 grades, then you can do the 2250 for all of it. And again, the 3250 low foaming version of that, which is not that commonly called for, really. The 3250 is not a big in-demand product, but we do have it available. Then the CitraSurf 2450, this is primarily for 420 grade stainless, which is really down at the low end of the scale as far as chromium content and corrosion resistance. Because what we found for that is, even with the 2250, the 420, you would still occasionally see some of that surface etching or surface discoloration. So for the 2450, we boosted the pH up even further to about a 4.5 up there. So if anybody is using 420, we usually just kick them straight to the 2450 just to make sure that they're going to be safe. And then that also covers all of the other 400 and the 300 grades as well. But if there is a situation where say they have 2050 and they happen to run a 440 or a 455 whatever through it, and the parts come out okay, without any etching or whatever, then it's fine. As long as the parts come out looking the way that everybody wants them to look, then operating the bath at the lower pH is just fine. That's not a concern. just to be aware that if we do see, that etching or discoloration at the lower pH, that's the solution to it, is to go up to a higher pH product. The 2250 usually, or the 2450 in the extreme case. So again, we have the sort of trouble alloys, if you will. You can see 420 on that list, 440C, 303. These are primarily the free machining grades, and what that is generally is a high level of sulfur in the alloy, which makes it easier to machine, whereas all the other grades, the level of sulfur is restricted to a very low amount. The problem with the sulfur, though, is when it's in the alloy, and so that means it's going to be all through the metal and on the surface too. And when the part starts to experience some moisture, even if you're not forming iron oxide, some of that sulfur can leach out up onto the surface. And it is also brown in color, so it also looks a lot like rust, at least to the naked eye. You get it under the microscope and you can tell the difference. The sulfur is more globular, like goo, as opposed to the iron oxide, which looks more sharp and jagged. But that's something to be aware of. The 303 is fairly common, so what typically happens is you'll start to get a sulfur smell out of the CitraSurf bath, and the parts will start to have sulfur on them. So the way around that, and this shows on that the alloy treatment table from earlier as well, is to do a pre-treatment and an alkaline cleaner, high pH caustic alkaline, like the ClearClean 4002, and that leaches the sulfur off of the surface anyway, so that it doesn't become a problem later on. Also, some of these, rather than sulfur, it's actually a carbon issue, a high level of carbon in the alloy, the element carbon. And what can happen there is, as you're passivating and removing the iron off the surface, and then you're left with a bunch of carbon on the surface, and carbon in its natural state by itself is black. It's quite dark. So you pull the parts out and it's got all this carbon on the surface, and you say, oh, the part turned dark. And it's not really from etching, it's just the carbon. So for those, again, we found that the alkaline pre-treat helps alleviate that a little bit, pull off a little bit of the carbon, so the parts come out looking the way we expect them to look. Castings, to finish off the list, because of the way castings are produced, you have a completely different surface, and because of the various versions of castings, some of those surfaces are a lot worse than others. It basically comes down to the porosity in general. If you have a lot of little holes in the surface, that can cause a lot of problem, make it very difficult to passivate that effectively. Typically for casting, what a lot of people will do for castings anyway, just to clean up that surface a little bit, is to sandblast them, and that's very good. We've even had a customer that had to not only sandblast but then electropolish the castings, just to get that surface to a smooth enough state that it could be passivated effectively. So and I mean, if you do, I've done a casting, and then you'll do a immersion test or whatever afterwards, and you'll see this one spot of rust on it, and sure enough, at the center of that spot of rust is a pore down into the surface of the casting. So we have the CitraSurf 2550, which is basically the 2450 with an addition of some peroxide, and the idea there is to boost the oxidation of the chromium on the surface right in the passivation bath. Not waiting until you're pulling it out, but right in there. But even that, it makes it a little bit better for some castings, but the castings with the really bad surface, it's still not a magic bullet. So it only gets you, part way. So depending on the castings, just surface prep is very important, and it's still going to be, an iffy kind of prospect for the castings. Then you have items, especially with the fabricators, railings or furniture or racks, or the guys who make the tanks, that the 3050 is used in. 3050 for the inside, but what if they want to do the outside of the tank too? Or if it's too small of a tank, they have a spray ball in there, or if it's an open-ended tank, open top tank. So not something that you can dip in a bath, or if it's something on site and attached to something else and you can't pull it out and you have to treat it in place. So we have the 77, which is basically just CitraSurf 2050 diluted down to a 10% citric acid level, and we sell that in the spray bottles, so you can just spray it on, or in refill containers, so you can just fill your own spray bottle, and then you can take it wherever you need to and spray it on there. And then same thing as with the tank, part in the tank has to soak in there for the given amount of time, let's say 20 minutes at room temperature, and then you pull it out and rinse it off. So with the 77, you just spray it on there, make sure it's on there for 20 minutes, wet, not drying out, and then you rinse it off. For things that are especially vertical, where the more liquid product might just be running down and have trouble staying on there, we have the thickened version, which is the 2210. So we call it a gel or a paste. It's about the consistency of paint, so it's still mostly liquid. You can actually spray it through like a garden sprayer or a paint sprayer type of thing. We do also have those in trigger sprayer bottles with a very special sprayer nozzle that can handle the thicker material. So we do a lot of that for the handrails and the medium-sized tanks and such, where it can be brushed on or sprayed on depending on the geometry and the size of what have you. And so again, you want to get it on there, leave it sit for 20-30 minutes. If you're doing it outside on a hot sunny day, it might start to dry out, and if it dries out before your 20 minutes is up, then that's a bad thing, because the acid is only working while it's wet. So it's best to do it early in the day or in the shade, or if you can't avoid the hot conditions, then have a spritzer bottle of water and just make sure it stays wet, and then rinse it off at the end. With the 2210, if you ever hear it turned white after we were done, that just means they didn't rinse it all off. There's, some of the thickener, when the thickener dries, it turns a pretty opaque white, and so that's just the residual of the thickener on there is not rinsed off enough. But come back, hit it with enough water, and it'll go away. It's still water soluble stuff. It's not really that hard to rinse it off once you know that you have to put in a little bit more effort to it. And then we have the rust removal versions of both of these. So the 77 Plus, the spray, the 2310, the gel. And sometimes people will just go straight to the rust removal version because they passivate as well. So if it's a fabricator and they know that they're going to need the 2310 down the line, they'll just buy the 2310 for their initial passivation as well, because the price difference isn't that much.